everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, and you know what time of week it is. It's Friday. Gotta get down on Friday. And it's time to talk about all of my wrestlers of the week. Some good matches this week, but weirdly, despite there being a lot of good matches, not that many blatantly standout performers. So we've got a few surprising entrants in Wrestlers of the Week this week. It should make for an interesting video. First of all, a few honourable mentions. We've got Yoshitatsu, who only bloody beat Kento Miyahara, the ace of All Japan. Yoshitatsu, now pretty much a veteran of All Japan's locker room, pulling it out the bag in the Champions Carnival, the big tournament, when it really matters. We've also got an honourable mention for Dominic Mysterio, another great performance by him in that steel cage on Monday Night Raw. Noam Dar main eventing the returning NXT UK show and putting in a very impressive performance too. And, Tony Khan for his little cameo on Dynamite. Really funny. He looked really bewildered, so that's good. But now that we've got the honourable mentions out of the way, it is time to talk about our top 10. And number 10 this week is an NXT superstar by the name of Shotzi Blackheart. Many people describe Shotzi's performance this week on NXT as a breakout performance for her, taking on Io Shirai in the opening match of the night in non-title action, but it still, I think, did a lot for her stock. Shotzi has been a quite popular figure in the NXT women's division without ever really rising to the top of her division. She's run over Robert Stone a few times in her tank. She was in the Rumble as well, I believe, and generally has not really progressed further than that, despite gaining quite a lot of popularity amongst the fans. This week could change all of that, because in this match with Io Shirai, it wasn't Io who was the standout talking point after the match, despite winning. It was Shotzi, who went toe-to-toe with the NXT Women's Champion, and for years now, the NXT Women's Championship has been a sign of real quality. Think of all the champions we've had in the past in the NXT Women's division: Asuka, Bayley, Sasha, Charlotte. I mean, it goes on and on. Shayna Baszler as well. If you're given that title, you know that NXT really believe that you're a star in the making, or even just a star already. And the thing that most NXT Women's Champions in the past all have in common is that they can really go in the ring. So for Shotzi Blackheart to stand toe-to-toe with an NXT Women's Champion and really go for it and put in a very, very impressive performance despite not winning, I think bodes really well for her future. And the good thing about Shotzi looking forwards as well is the fact that she is distinctive. You know, she doesn't blend into the background. She's very, punk rock and colourful hair, and she really stands out in a division which is really very, very strong at all times in its history. So fair play to Shotzi Blackheart, despite losing, a good performance from her to kick off NXT this week and also to kick off our Wrestlers of the Week countdown. Number 9, a man who has featured highly in the Wrestlers of the Week league table, I think for the past 2 years of its existence, but not so much this year due to obviously the pandemic and just not really getting too much of a chance to shine, and the fact that he's not held the All Japan Triple Crown for quite some time. It's the ace of All Japan. Is he still the ace? Probably. It's Kento Miyahara. So at the moment, at the time of recording, it's All Japan's Champions Carnival, their version of the G1 Climax, their annual round-robin tournament where all the best wrestlers in the promotion wrestle each other once, and then the 2 winners go on, and you know the score. And it's often an excuse to push somebody up towards title contention who may not have been there, either by winning the tournament itself or beating the champion in the tournament. However, Suwama, the current champion of All Japan, has, I think, lost all of his matches, or 2 out of his 3 matches so far. So I don't know how much stock we can put in beating the champion this year. I think we're going to have to look at impressive performances instead. And Miyahara, being the ace of All Japan, put in a couple of very impressive performances. He lost to Yoshitatsu, which I mentioned in the honourable mentions section, which was a humiliating loss for Kento Miyahara, but his performance was very solid, and then he picked up a win, bouncing back against Shotaro Ashino in probably, I think the general consensus, most people agree, was the best match of the tournament so far. Because it hasn't been like a crazy good tournament or anything. We've seen far better matches in previous years' Champions Carnivals. It's not been really on par in terms of quality with recent G1 Climaxes, which are always the benchmark, the impossibly high benchmark for these sorts of competitions. But this match that Miyahara had was an impressive one and was probably the best match of the tournament so far, yes. But I don't know if Miyahara is going to win the tournament. I mean, as you can see in the picture, he's wearing a shirt basically saying, let's go for 2 consecutive tournament wins in a row. He won last year's tournament. He's going for the second one this year. I don't know if he's going to get it. I don't know. It feels like maybe this year All Japan are going to focus on pushing people such as maybe Jake Lee, other people maybe towards this main event status, and maybe Miyahara will be a victim of that, because even if he doesn't win, All Japan can afford not to push him for a while because his star will continue to shine. And the reason for that is just from years now of excellent performances, monstrous title reigns, excellent title defenses, and that's all built on a foundation of his insane in-ring ability, which we got a glimmer of this week. It wasn't his best match ever or anything like that, but he did put in 2 very, very solid performances, and that's worth 2 points on Wrestlers of the Week. Number 8, picking up 3 points, a much more familiar face to many, many wrestling fans, and he's been featuring quite a lot recently. It's Seth Rollins. Now, Seth again faced Dominic Mysterio. I'm sure that he's faced Dominic quite a lot of times now, maybe more than WWE had initially intended, but obviously Ray suffered that injury and Dominic had to step in, and stepped in very well, by the way. So Rollins and Dominic have clashed quite a few times now, but they've never clashed in a steel cage before this week's Monday Night Raw. And this match was a tremendous one. I really enjoyed it. I think it was the best thing on WWE TV out of the 2 main brands this week, Raw and SmackDown. The best thing match quality-wise, but there's been quite a few good storylines progressing, especially the Roman Reigns and Jey Uso feud, impending feud, whatever it is. But in terms of in-ring action, yeah, I can't look further than Seth Rollins versus Dominic Mysterio from the 2 main brands. I think that Rollins was excellent here. He then pushed his own storyline further forwards after the match by turning on Murphy, I know he said Buddy Murphy, on just Murphy, slamming him into the cage door, beating him down, and basically casting him out from under his wing. Now this seems like it could be leading towards a face turn for Buddy Murphy, just Murphy, and then maybe a feud between himself and Rollins, and if those 2 do face each other, maybe a Clash of Champions, maybe a little bit further down the line, I can see some major points being awarded to both men in future episodes of this very series, because Rollins, of course, can put on a fantastic match, and Murphy as well can do so too. But yeah, Rollins was approaching top form again in this steel cage match. I mean, the Falcon Arrow spot, the superplex Falcon Arrow spot in the cage was phenomenal. His healing it up at all times was again on point. He's a real pro by now, and it's hard to keep thinking of things to say about Rollins because we all know how good he is. And then it's easy to forget those things when he's a babyface because the booking's always awful, but when he's a heel again, things do generally start to trend again in the right direction. So well done, Seth. 3 points for you. Now, let's move on to number 7. Number 7 this week is another member of the NXT roster, and unlike Shotzi Blackheart, who opened the show, this man, Damian Priest, closed the show in the main event by successfully defending his North American title. Damian Priest, right, when he first, well, I mean, a lot of people knew him as Punishment Martinez in Ring of Honor, but when he first burst onto the NXT scene, because of maybe his look and his attire slightly, and just the way he carried himself and his character, was saddled with the reputation of being the next Baron Corbin. And I don't want to say that's necessarily a bad thing. Corbin's very good at his specific job, but because he's a heel and because he doesn't try in any way to appear likable or cool or anything, gets a lot of hate. So when people were saying this about Damian Priest, it wasn't really a compliment. However, Priest has separated himself from that, and I think this week was a giant stride away from the whole next Baron Corbin stigma. He's also put on great performances, such as in the ladder match where he won the North American title, and in this match against Timothy Thatcher on NXT this week, he once again impressed more than I think a lot of people were banking on. Now, I know a lot of Timothy Thatcher fans, Matthew, who were unimpressed with the booking decision here. They wanted to see Timothy Thatcher win the North American title and go on a big tear, tearing people's limbs off, stretching them in the middle of the ring. But it's too soon, isn't it? It's too soon to take that title from Damian Priest. It feels like he's only just won it, really, and it's only been a few weeks. Has it? A month, maybe? And it's obviously too soon. But as long as he's putting in performances like this, I can't really blame NXT for keeping that belt on him, because he is slowly, and I wasn't a fan of his at the start either, but he is slowly proving himself in the eyes of all of his doubters. And another thing that he's doing really well is showing more and more personality, which, I mean, the turning point for that was obviously his hot tub celebration upon winning the title. And since then, he really does pack a lot of charisma into both his promos, of course, but also into his matches as well. So that's really nice to see. I'm glad that Damian Priest is succeeding against a lot of people's better judgment, including my own, and I'm happy to be proven wrong. And as long as Damian Priest keeps doing what he's doing, then he'll continue to improve more and more. Fair play to him. I hope he accepts my 4 points as a token of apology. Number 6 this week, NXT UK was back, and I feel like the show could have been a little bit better. I feel like they could have maybe tried to structure it more around high work rate sort of matches to really come back with a bit of a bang. However, there was one very high work rate match at least in the main event, which was Noam Dar taking on this week's number 6, Ilya Dragonov. Dragonov is, I mean, if there's one strength of NXT UK, it's the fact that everyone in it is pretty much a really, really good wrestler. But Dragonov, even amongst that talented crop, is one of the very best there. He's being set up after a long pause because of the pandemic. He is being fully set up to be the next #1 contender for Volta's title. Now, I don't know, when everything was chugging along and we had shows every week, I was expecting Dragonov to take that belt from Volta. Now, I'm not so certain. That's because after such a long break, we're not really used to seeing Volta. We've kind of forgotten his title reign a little bit, and I think WWE will want to remind us all what he's like as a champion. So I don't know now if I can see Dragonov taking that belt from him because of the long pause we've just gone through. But that doesn't mean he won't get it in the future, and it doesn't even necessarily mean I'm right. I mean, he could beat Volta for it at the first time of asking. But I do think, regardless of what happens, he probably will be NXT UK champion at some point. And matches like this only help his cause. This match in the main event of NXT UK versus Noam Dar was a really good matchup. Two guys who are very explosive, very quick. I'd say Dar's probably quicker and Dragonov's probably more explosive, but they've both got elements of each other's style in their own styles, and the match blended together very nicely. They're also both good strikers. They're also both good at coming off the ropes with various different moves. I feel like this was a bit of an underrated gem this week, so check it out if you haven't seen it already. And I do think that, as much as a fan as I am of Noam Dar's, I do think it was the right call to have Dragonov win the match. With the Torpedo Moscow, bang, 1, 2, 3. And I guess Dar has to start a game, but one advantage that Dar has is that he's just so hateable that he can feud with pretty much any babyface on the roster. So, congratulations to Ilya Dragonov. I'm curious to see what happens next, especially with regards to Volta and the United Kingdom Championship, which still exists. We haven't seen it for a while, but it still exists. And I think as well, more importantly as well, Dragonov and Volta can have an absolute belter of a match. They're familiar with each other from their WXW days, and I can't wait to see what they do with it. I don't think there should be a stipulation, just singles match, the pair of them, go at it, and let's see what happens. Number 5 this week, picking up yet more points. It's the wonderful Thunder Rosa, one of the real highlights of AEW in recent weeks. And because of that, it's easy to forget that Thunder Rosa is not an AEW wrestler. She's an NWA wrestler, and not just that, she's the NWA Women's Champion. But obviously, AEW are interested in Thunder Rosa, and for good reason, because she's just brilliant. She is, no pun intended, dynamite in the ring. What am I like? She had a match this week on a very impressive Dynamite. I mean, it was one of the best Dynamites I think I can recall. So it's been a very, very good show. But she had a really good match against Ivelisse, defending that NWA Women's title and successfully doing so in a good match. Bit of controversy came out of that match, implying that maybe the pair began to stiff each other with some of their strikes. There's a gif going around of Ivelisse being locked in almost like a full Nelson kind of, or some kind of headlock, and Ivelisse just sits there looking bored while she applies it. So that's not great if that's what was going on, if she was sandbagging or no-selling Thunder Rosa's offense. But on Thunder Rosa's part, her part in the match was really, really good. The thing that I'm most impressed with about Thunder Rosa, well, there's two things. There's one, there's her character work. She's really intense. She feels like a real competitor, a real fighter in the ring. And two, her versatility. She can do it all in the ring. She can strike, she can do technical stuff, mat work, grappling, submission exchanges, and that sort of thing. And she can do power moves, as we saw in the finish of this match, with a hellacious tombstone piledriver to put Ivelisse away. What's next for Thunder Rosa? Maybe another match with Hikaru Shida, maybe an alliance with Hikaru Shida, because after this match, Rosa was getting beaten down by Ivelisse and her tag partner, Diamante. Then, Hikaru Shida jumped the barrier, got in the ring, and chased them off, and handed the NWA Women's title back to Thunder Rosa. Does that mean she wants the belt, or was she simply showing respect for a fellow competitor? I don't know, but it looks maybe like we're getting babyface Thunder Rosa on the horizon, and I'd be very interested to see what that's like. Next up, number 4. It's Chucky T. It's Chuck Taylor of the Best Friends. Everyone's favourite match this week, pretty much, who saw it, was the parking lot fight, the massive brawl in the main event of AEW Dynamite this week. The Best Friends taking on Santana and Ortiz. And before I get to this match and talking about it, how good was Santana and Ortiz's face paint? The Dead President's face paint? It looked so cool. But apart from that, you know, the story of the match was Santana and Ortiz being massive heels, and they did that really well. And in fact, they get the biggest honourable mention this week. I should have pointed that out, but unfortunately, there were too many good performances elsewhere, and they lost the match, so I had to axe them from the top 10, unfortunately. But their performance was really, really good. But the story of the match was them being massive heels, and also Chuck Taylor and Trent trying to get revenge for Sue, Trent's mother. And they really did bring a lot of intensity to this match. And Chuck Taylor was kind of in his element here. We've all seen Chuck Taylor do comedy before. We've all seen him do tag team matches before. But also, during his time in PWG especially, he did quite a lot of hardcore stuff and sort of excelled at it. He can't kind of escape that kind of backyard image he has, or the kind of indie boy where he just jumps off things and lands really hard and uses weapons and stuff, and he's very good at it. I thought this when he was jumping off the car roof, like into the hood of the car with Ortiz on it, or moments like when he just hit a pile driver on Santana right towards the end of the match on a different car. He was really, really good, breaking planks of wood over people as well, and he made everything look like it was a real fight. It's hard not to cheer for Trent Taylor because a lot of his pre-AEW career was as a heel, because he's fantastic at being just an old school heel, taunting the crowd, playing up to all that stuff. But he's so funny as well that it's a bit hard not to enjoy what he does. So I'm glad to see him as a babyface during his AEW run so far. Not ruling out, though, a heel turn in future. But Chuck also took part in a pivotal point of the match as well, where he was lying slumped against the car. Santana's found a lead pipe from somewhere. He's approaching Chuck. He's about to just bash his brains in with it. And then the trunk opens. Here comes Orange Cassidy with a big chain-assisted Superman punch to save the day. And that was just one example of the many Chuck Taylor-centric moments in this match that were really, really effective. But I can't dwell on Chuck for too long, because number 3 is, predictably, his tag partner, Trent. Trent was the beating heart of this match, guys, as melodramatic as that sounds. They were looking for revenge for his own mother, Sue, who reportedly baked cookies for everyone backstage at Dynamite, which is, what a wholesome woman. But yeah, Trent was the emotional centre point of this match and took a beating because of it, a scary one, especially that double powerbomb into the windshield, and his back was just a mess. And, you felt bad for him at all times, and that's what you want from a babyface, especially in this sort of match. But when he fought back, Trent fought back with a proper vengeance and seemed genuinely quite menacing at times, despite being a 100% babyface. He also had the climactic moment of the match, putting the exclamation point on the affair with, is that the Awful Waffle? I don't know what the move is. The Dude Buster, isn't it? The one that's like an air raid crash, double through the legs, bang, into the flatbed of a trailer. Look, I'm trying to explain what happened, but I don't know the name of the move. Can you please let me know in the comments below? But yes, he hit that move on Ortiz into the flatbed of a pickup truck to seal the victory. And then obviously we had that wonderful moment at the end of the match where Cassidy, Chuck, and Trent all piled into Sue's people carrier. She drove away, flipped the bird to Santana and Ortiz. I'm not going to do it on camera in case we get demonetized. And they drove off into the sunset. And it was just such a good ending. And a reminder that wrestling often can and should be a lot of fun. Number 2 this week, picking up 9 points, and we're sticking with Dynamite, which was a very strong show, as I mentioned. Yeah, number 2 this week goes to a man who used to be a big single star in like TNA, for example, and PWG, but is now more of a tag team guy, going back to his singles roots and showing us all what he can do still. It's Frankie Kazarian. And because of this rare chance to show what he can do in a singles capacity, Kazarian really brought it all to the table this week. He was going for it and had a really, really good match in the second place spot on Dynamite. Not even the opening match of the show, which was another good match between Jurassic Express and FTR, but in the second match. So it had a hard match to follow and did so really well. And a lot of that was down to Kazarian's performance, blending realism with big strikes and meaty lariats at a lot of times in this match, with athleticism, nimbleness that has always characterized his career, even if he has toned it down from his X Division days, and he's now more of like playing more of the wily veteran role. And at various points, despite him being the far smaller single star in the current AEW pecking order in this match, Kazarian really did seem like he was almost going to win at various points. There was a wonderful unprettier at one point. There was that slingshot into the cutter over the top rope. That was really nice as well. And the finish was good, even though it led to Kazarian losing the match, where he went for that same move, looked a bit lost, and then turned around and caught a big blow to the face and was, pinned immediately. But I think I, for one, would enjoy seeing more of SCU in singles action. All 3 members. We've seen some of Scorpio Sky in singles action, of course, and Daniels on occasion, and he still is a bit of a marvel at his age in the ring. But Kazarian out of the 3 is maybe the one that we've seen least of in a singles capacity in AEW, and on this match's evidence, I think we can probably get away with seeing more of it. And so that just leaves me with number 1 this week, and my wrestler of the week for, I believe, the 3rd time this year, but it doesn't feel like it because, the pandemic and everything. But he deserves it. It's Hangman Page. Yeah, Hangman scoops the 10 big points and is absolutely fully deserving. He is in contention, despite not being in like the top 3 of the Wrestlers of the Week league table. I think he's in contention for my Wrestler of the Year because everything he's done has been so perfectly judged. And now we're at a really exciting time for Hangman. I'll talk briefly about the match with Kazarian, but I covered it pretty well talking about Kazarian. But Hangman's role was really good as well. They're both kind of hard-hitting guys, even though neither of them are giants. They both know how to throw a big lariat, and they did so quite a lot. And then obviously Hangman threw that climactic one, outfoxing Kazarian, and then timing his flip into the ring for the buckshot lariat and picking up the 3 count. The match was a good one, there's no denying that. But I was even more impressed, as always I am with Hangman Page, with the character work. Hangman, he's taking us on a journey still, isn't he? And it's just everything that happens, every major event, is just another chapter in the wonderful story of Hangman. So now, I'll catch us up with where we find ourselves in his story. He seems to have split with Kenny Omega. Omega was on guest commentary for this match and seemed reluctant to tag with Hangman again. We learn on commentary that this match was originally a tag match between, Page and Omega and SCU, and Kenny turned it down. And then when Hangman won the match, he turned around to see if Omega was watching. Omega had already left his commentary position, and Hangman looked just heartbroken and sadly downed a beer in the corner and looks like a broken man. A broken man who is still winning matches and looking like a badass, but a broken one nonetheless. I'm so excited for where we're going to go in the future with Hangman Page, because this is what I want to happen. I want Omega to win that title from Jon Moxley, and preferably in a heelish way. Maybe alongside the Bucks with interference, who knows. Then we need Omega to go on a bit of a heelish tear. And then, who's the hero we all want to come and save the day and become AEW World Champion? The accolade he should have won in that match with Jericho so long ago now, it seems. Hangman Page, it has to be. He has to be the hero we all deserve. Surely, AEW, please make it happen. But anyway, that is it for the countdown. Congratulations to Hangman Adam Page. You are my wrestler of the week. Now, let's take a look at that league table. So we still see the AEW 3 in the top 3, Jon Moxley, Cody and Kenny Omega. Drew McIntyre, the WWE Champion, ironically just ahead of Keith Lee, the man who is potentially looking to take that belt from him if Randy Orton stays out of their business, is just bringing up the rear in 5th place. But as we progress further down, we see Hangman Page down there, level with Hiromu Takahashi in joint 12th position, and he could be picking up a lot more points before the end of the year. But in general, this could all change in a month or two completely, because of course New Japan's G1 Climax is on the horizon. So thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Leave your thoughts and opinions on any of this top 10, any of the matches that you've seen this week that you think are worthy of mention on Wrestlers of the Week, any of the wrestlers you think need a shout out as well. Leave all that sort of stuff in the comment section down below. Stay safe out there, stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.